We're really pleased to be able to tell you a little bit about our journey to level 3. I'm Sue Rollison. I'm the Chief Finance Officer and Deputy Chief Exec at University Hospitals Coventry and Warwickshire. I'll move over to Anthony.
Good afternoon all. So Anthony Hobbs, I'm the Deputy CFO.
And finally, Pam.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Pam Core, and I'm Head of Financial Development at UHCW.
And we're collectively going to do a little bit of a trio to take you through some of our learnings, hopefully tell you and show you why it's been so important to us as well. And of course, importantly, take any questions that you might have. So let's start then our journey at UHCW. I think I'll just sort of give a little bit of context from my perspective as to why I believe it's so important, and why we've made it a really central to our finance strategy at UHCW. I think it's a really challenging environment within the NHS at the moment, and I'm sure you're all part of organisations which have significant financial challenges, or even if you haven't got significant financial challenges, it is a real struggle, if you like, to make sure that actually you continually keep moving forward, and that actually that we're central to improving the state of finances, but also making sure that everybody really feels bought into the development journey and feels part of achieving something when you do have so many challenges. And I suppose that's why we made the active decision that we would focus on this, and we would focus on our accreditation levels to make sure that we're continually moving forward despite all the challenges that we knew the NHS was faced with regards to finance. And it's been a long journey, and you'll see there, and embarrassingly, I think you'll see us all through various states of over 10 years on the photograph. So there you go. I'm sure we haven't changed a bit, but you'll see there that our future focus finance journey started in 2014, when we became early adopters and ambassadors for FFF, and there are a number of us there, and you'll see a few of us that around the table. So you'll see Pam there in the pictures, and you'll see Anthony as well, and certainly myself there. You'll see signing our declaration in 2019. And at the same time, or shortly after we became so involved with Future Focus Finance, we also became part of the Virginia Mason programme. So in 2015, we became part of the partnership with 5 of the UK hospitals, with Virginia Mason, who is based in Seattle. And this was all about adopting an improvement methodology, with the underpinnings of better never stop. So really thinking about how you continually improve your services, and of course for ourselves within the finance department, how we would also continually improve and adopt and support some of those methodologies that UHCWI, our improvement methodology, was so central in terms of what we were doing. And so then we looked then to see how we would support not only the Virginia Mason and looking at Virginia Mason, but also we had a number of strategy refreshes. So our trust overall strategy was developed in 2018 and further refreshed in 2023. And that really looked at us becoming both a national and international leader in healthcare. And more recently in 2023, we added rooted in our communities, acknowledging that we needed not only to focus on the acute as such, but also how we would go out to communities and really develop and move forward in some of our priorities around inequalities and reducing the inequality gap, by looking at how we would move across pathways, not just in terms of the acute building. And the importance of that really is because we recognise that in becoming an international and national leader in healthcare, that actually we would also require the best-in-class finance function. And really looking at all of those things that would support that, both in terms of the way that we operate within the organisation, but also how we would make sure that those individuals within our finance function were really at the top of what they could achieve, looking at how we could develop people, how we could create a sustainable finance function, but also around that, looking at how we could create the best processes, the best way in which we operate to make sure that we offer the best service to our users. And of course, that enables us then to deliver the best patient care. So that was really central, and that's why we felt the accreditation process really supported everything that we were trying to do. And when you look at the accreditation and the way in which it's structured, it really does concentrate on all the things that we knew that we wanted to be the best at doing. And so it seemed the best way, if you like, to get the recognition, both within the finance department, but also within the wider organisation, and of course externally as well, to say we've achieved all of these things, and it gave a real focus for us to move through. And so the accreditation then became central and actually a written part of our finance strategy. So it's not just something that we do outside of everything else that we do within our finance strategy. It's actually the key mechanism that we have chosen to adopt to make sure that we recognise where we are in our development journey. And I think that's really important, because if you make it something that's, if you like, a fringe thing, then obviously it doesn't then become sustainable. And actually, certainly for the first couple of levels, the danger would be that it would become a tick box exercise. And that was not what we set out to achieve. We set out to achieve real improvement within our finance department to actually become the best that we possibly could be, and support individuals to become the best they possibly could be as well. And you'll see from some of those photos, after signing the declaration in 2019, we moved through the levels. So level 1 we achieved in 2020, and just going back to that, if you like, why we thought it was so important, and the challenges, if you like. So just remembering the challenges, of course, of exiting COVID, and actually what we then needed to do in terms of finance and recovery. Actually, we felt it was really important to continue that development journey, and hence the reason why you'll see in level 1 being achieved in 2020, then level 2 in 2021. And just to go back again around that statement I made about it being real improvement and not a tick box exercise, one of the reasons you'll see the gap, if you like, between level 2 and then level 3 is because we felt we needed very much to embed all of those improvements that we had made during the level 1 and level 2 to then take it to a further stage in 2024, where we finally got our level 3 accreditation. And certainly the level 3 accreditation is the most significant, and it is the one where you get the most scrutiny and external scrutiny, of course, in terms of assessment. And it's really important, therefore, that you not only just provide the evidence, but actually that you're living the evidence as well. And that's really what level 3 is all about. And as I say, in terms of embedding, level 3 is actually about showing that you have embedded level 1, level 2, and you've taken it further. So actually, it's not just about a new set of things, it's actually about how you've created all of the things that you've done before to make them sustainable within your function. Next slide, please. Fabulous. And here's a great little roadmap of our journey, if you like. And I've mentioned some of these things already, but I'll just go through at a very high level. So 2014, that was our early adopters of Future Focus Finance. So it has been a long journey. I think that's one of the things I would say there. And one of the things that I think in terms of UHCW and Virginia Mason, but also in terms of our accreditation, actually, this is something about consistency and continual improvement. It's not about just dipping in. It's about having a vision of where you want to get to, and making sure that you have a structure that allows you to continuously achieve that, as opposed to, of course, just doing discrete pieces of work. But out of that, in terms of our partnership with Virginia Mason, we also had a trust strategy around towards world class, where we very much at that point started to think about our own finance function, how we would be world class and how we would be what we term now best in class as such. So not just a UK leader, but very much looking at a much more global stage in terms of excelling towards excellence. Various things that we've then led on, including many of the ONF and HFMA networks, so various space events, and I'm sure Pam can tell you lots about the interfaces that she's had, because she leads on a lot of this work in terms of working in partnership and helping support ONF, but leading national networks. I chair the costing, what is now the Value Institute, so it's moved from the Costing for Value to the Value Institute, which is, of course, the HFMA Institute, and we look at really how we will get best value across pathways, which again very much supports the work that we're doing internally. But then making sure that internally we focus on listening to our staff, continually embedding our strategy, but also when we run the staff survey, it's really important that we actually listen to what that means for us and actually act upon that in an authentic way to make sure we address concerns. And I think it's a real testament. So in terms of our staff survey this year for financial management, we actually had 100% return rate, response rate. And that really shows the level of engagement people feel. And so I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of Anthony, Paul and team in terms of what's been achieved for our staff response rates, because it's really important to us that we do hear people and then that we actually do things about what people say. And so we'll be running a whole series of new listening events on the back of our most recent staff survey. And that's, again, going through a continuous improvement cycle. And we carry on in terms of some of the showcase sessions that we've done, in particular health and wellbeing. And we've got a great set of slides in a minute where we'll show some of the health and wellbeing initiatives that we've done. You'll also see a great set of slides about team building and celebrating success. And I should say that is really important to us as well. So one thing we're really keen on is everybody getting involved in the health and wellbeing agenda to make as happy and healthy a finance function as we possibly can be, but also about celebrating its success. So this year, alongside our Christmas quiz that we do, we actually had our Finance Staff Awards and really showcase some of those great things that people have done across our entire function. And I have to say, I'm incredibly proud of some of the achievements that we have, that we've made. And you'll see that, I'm sure, from HFMA magazines, that we were actually nominated for and shortlisted for 3 of the awards this year in terms of the HFMA awards. But in particular, I'm very proud of the achievements that the teams have made in terms of the overall team, but also in terms of the development. And the training development, which I really believe is something that we have to focus on, because I'm not going to be around forever, but certainly we need to not only concentrate on now, but look at how we create one of the best and most sustainable NHS finance functions for the future, with a whole set of new skills as well that are adaptable and are agile enough to accommodate what may happen in the NHS moving forward. So we refreshed our finance strategy and we then got our level 3 accreditation, which I'm incredibly proud of. As I say, it was a long journey as such in terms of actually getting to that point. But I really do feel that we deserve the level 3, I have to say, because we didn't just treat it, as I say, as a fringe exercise. We treated it as something that would really improve our finance function. I think I've emphasised that enough now, but it does mean a lot when you can see real improvement, not just something that is a tick box exercise. And then we furthermore go on to showcase as many things as we possibly can. One of the things that I believe in strongly, and I know Anthony and Pam also do, as do the rest of my team, is that the NHS should work together as a learning organisation. And so the more ways in which we can help each other, learn from each other, the better. So I'm more than happy to talk to people, as are any of my team, about how we can all improve the finance function moving forward. And hopefully we'll be able to take on board lots of things that are said to us as well and improve our finance function as much as we possibly can do. Next slide. So this is our UHCW strategic triangle, and there's a few things just to point out there really. So everything we do is to enable the best patient care that we possibly can give here at UHCW. And it's really important, I think, that we all understand that actually the finance function is one of the most important enablers to that. And that really means that everything that we do in our finance strategy needs to support the service to enable that patient care to be delivered at its optimal. And certainly in terms of where we are, you'll see our vision, as I've mentioned, is to be a national and international leader in healthcare, rooted in our communities, and therefore that's what we need to support in terms of our function. And you'll see there our purpose, and our purpose is around local integrated care, centres of excellence, research, innovation, teaching, sustainability, and valuing and enabling our people. And all of those things play through into our finance strategy and the supporting strategies that go alongside. And I'll go through those in a little more detail in the next slide. You'll see there that all of our values are represented. And again, it's really important that from a finance perspective, we understand exactly how each of those values relates to us and how we must act. But I think you'll understand when you look through those, and you'll see that actually they all very much align with the accreditation methodology, particularly when you look at very much around the openness, improve, respect, partnership, pride, and actually learning. In fact, all of them, to be fair, they all very much are coherent with the overall accreditation process. And in particular, everything we do is underpinned by UHCWI, better never stops. And that's really our thought processes around how we operate. And even in terms of when we've done the HFMA sustainability assessment, where we did incredibly well in terms of that assessment, even when we were at the top scoring, which was a 5, we still felt there was more to do. And that is our approach to everything. We truly believe that actually you can always continually improve. And again, in terms of that accreditation process, whilst we're at level 3 now, we acknowledge that we can still go further, and we aim and strive to do so. So it will be very much around embedding the level 3, but it will also be around even where we think we may have got to the level that is required. We want to go over and above that and really take it further. Next slide, please. So our overall strategy is trust strategy is more than a hospital, and our clinical strategy underpins that. But for us, it's very important that our finance strategy, which is that block on the left, if you like, supports both the clinical and the overall trust strategy. And you'll see some of the other strategies that we have to enable those things within the trust. So the people strategy, estate strategy, R&D and digital. And for me, it's a real matrix. So it's really important that every aspect, if you like, supports each other. So of course, it's very important that the people strategy supports the clinical strategy and the overall trust strategy. But it's also really important that the people strategy supports the finance strategy and vice versa. So it's not about a linear relationship of one supporting the other. It's about a complex matrix whereby we make sure that everything is interwoven within each of the strategies. But from a finance strategy perspective, there are a number of things within there, whether that be around financial stewardship and the ownership of board, around the good budget management, if you like, and allocation of resources. There is an unrelenting focus on what we term as waste, which is in line with our UHCW methodology around Tachiono's waste wheel. So we talk about process waste, we talk about unrealised human potential, we talk about waste in terms of procurement, and it's ensuring that actually that is centre to everything we do in terms of our improvement within our financial allocations. But also it talks about the tools around which we will assess ourselves. So we talk about the standard work, the processes that we will follow. We also talk about excellence in planning, but also we look at budget holder feedback. And importantly, then we look at our development of our finance function and all of the things that you would hope to see around really good succession planning, really good talent mapping, and really good learning and development programs. So that's all embedded within the finance strategy. And to support that finance strategy, there are some sub-strategies. So we have a commercial strategy, looking at how we would optimise each of the commercial opportunities and every decision that we make. A procurement strategy, looking at how we will optimise procurement, and also a costing strategy. So again, how we'll use costing information to better inform decisions within our finance function. Keep on moving, Pam. And these are the accreditation areas that are a focus for us, and we'll give a little bit more detail around some of those areas in a second. But staff development and talent mapping, so align with the Finance Academy talent management strategy. The finance structure we've very much designed now to allow some of those development opportunities and promotion opportunities, to make it not just a flat structure, but to absolutely allow up and coming finance managers of the future to move through the different levels, but also feel supported in those roles as well. Job descriptions and competency frameworks, so very much going through making sure we've got standardised job descriptions and competencies, but again going back to that structure, that everybody feels as though they have a clear line, if you like, in terms of their movements through the finance department. Looking at appraisals and 6-month reviews, really important that we act in a way that enables people to be appraised, to be held accountable and responsible, but also that they highlight development opportunities, and that we can actually enact that and make sure that we give people the maximum opportunity, if you like, to succeed within their roles. Talent conversations, so talent mapping, is something that's really important to the trust and certainly important to the finance department. So I think hopefully I'm a testament to some of those talent conversations, given that I started in 2004 at UHCW, started as a commissioning finance manager, having previously been a graduate trainee, and then moved through the ranks, and clearly I'm sitting here today. So hopefully that's a good evidence base of how people can progress within the organisation, but within our finance department. So looking at how we develop skills, and also how we look at succession planning. So how do we create that really good finance department of the future, not just the finance department of today? Staff health and wellbeing, quality, diversity, inclusion. So very much aligned with the ONF Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Charters, culture and diversity, our response to the National Staff Survey in terms of how we make sure that we capture and respond to everything within that staff survey, team building events, and also staff recognition. And now I've already given you a little bit of a highlight around staff recognition within the awards, but actually we had some of the greatest nominations from the organisation of our finance team as well, for what we call our Oscars, so our outstanding care awards. So that's an organisation wide award And actually we had lots of nominations from the organisation itself, and also what we call our world-class colleagues, again really highlighting that not only within finance there is recognition, but actually we are recognised by the rest of the organisation, which is really important. Stakeholder engagement, internal and external, so use of all aspects of financial information, making sure that we understand how budget holders perceive the function, what they think we can do better, actually what we do well that we can do more of, making sure that we engage with budget holders in the right way, that we get budgets signed off, that we properly risk stratify, if you like, to make sure that we get the right level of engagement where needed. But also budget holder training, really important that our budget holders understand finance and they see it as an important part of what they do. So as well as our budget holder training, there are actually 2 mandatory objectives within everybody's personal development plan, and one of them is around financial stewardship and appropriate budget holder responsibilities. So that's really important, again, because that means it's across the whole of our organisation. Use of the Innovation Forum, flagship with external organisations, and ambassadors for One NHS Finance. And so I'm sure going through these slides, Pam and Anthony will give you some highlights and some examples of where we've really gone out and been champions and flagships for the things that we do. And then governance, controls and financial sustainability. So audit and risk assurance, it's really important to us that we don't have any outstanding recommendations. It's really important to us that we have all of our audit reports for finance that are of a very high level of assurance. So whether that be significant or full assurance, that's what we aim. And actually this year we had many of our outcomes as being full assurance in terms of the individual parts of some of the audits that we had done on finance, which is really positive actually in terms of moving forward. HFMA sustainability assessment I've talked about, where we had nothing that was under a scoring of 3, but more importantly, we've improved between years. And also we continue to do that assessment, even though it's not now a national requirement. We still see it as something that is important to us and helps support our accreditation. But going back to Better Never Stops, we don't believe that just because we've got to the top scoring that we should stop. We should keep going, and we should actually exceed those expectations within that sustainability assessment. Internal financial governance and control, so very much around how we set ourselves up and making sure we are fit for purpose. Compliance with green plan and net zero targets, so very much looking at how finance ourselves can support that agenda, also how we can help to support the agenda by actually transacting those things within our waste programme to make sure that there is visibility and that we give the right incentives to the organisation to actually comply with the green plan and net zero targets. And finally around business continuity plans. So I think hopefully that gives a flavour at least of how we have helped to represent on regional and national work groups, but also how we hopefully have helped to create a centre of excellence as such by doing some of the things that we have done for the accreditation process. And as I say, it is proud that we've got to where we have, but it is by making that very central to what we do. And seamlessly, I'll move on to Anthony.
Thank you, Sue. So Sue has described the why. Myself and Pam will take us through the how a little bit. So when we went through the level 1 and level 2 accreditation process, we very much put that as an add-on to our business as usual. So looked at it as a specific project. What was quite clear from that, yes, as we looked at then embedding some of those, we'd got a real interesting read across between our business as usual groups and the accreditation focus. So one of the things we did early on after becoming level 2 accreditation is we tried to align the accreditation requirements, and there are some 139 competencies to the development groups that we had in place, or the key business groups that we'd got in place in terms of finance. So this very much, yes, allowed us to start bringing the accreditation themes into the business as usual element of finance and the way we worked. And I think for any organisation in terms of that are considering moving from 2 to 3, I think that is something that you probably want to consider, because actually trying to run accreditation outside your business as usual becomes quite challenging. Just move on to the next slide, please, Pam. So we split our 139 component parts of the accreditation, yes, in essence, into those 4 delivery groups. And one of the key parts is how do you keep your organisation engaged in terms of where you are and where you're going. So this is just a really simple example that we took every other month, yes, through our team brief, in terms of saying this is where we are against our performance, and we were monitoring our way through and communicating to all our finance colleagues where we were for each and every item. What we also did, though, is looked at those accreditation points and changed them into meaningful tasks. So wherever possible, we tried to link them into a deliverable that people would understand. So, for example, we put an ask into our development group in terms of an annual development plan and a review of that. Now, that's actually quite a simple, well, I say quite a simple task. It obviously has quite a lot of component parts, but actually as an ask, that's quite understandable for people. But actually that element ticked off probably about 10 or 15 of the competencies, yes, across a number of the different, levels. So the way we approached it is looking at what vehicle or what function that we were going to try and deliver that would then support, how we would embed that, how we would monitor it, and how we would keep assessing whether or not we were compliant with it. Yeah. Next slide, please. So I think having a plan is really important, and holding yourself to account in terms of the deadlines that you're working to, yes, so everybody understands. Now, what you've got in front of you is just our final part of our deadline, but the real importance here is communication, and not just communication across your top leaders. So for our perspective at UHCW, we have our corporate finance team, which has our top 6 leaders in there across finance. But it's not enough just for your corporate leaders to understand where you're going, because actually your assessment process is around all of finance. Your assessment process is around your budget holders. It's around the organisation. Does the organisation understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to deliver? So, as you will hear in quite a few forums, communication, communication, communication. You can't do enough of it. And I'll just give you some examples of some of the things that we do and that we used in terms of communicating. And it's not to say that this is an extensive list. And every time that I listen to another organisation do this, I will hear something that I think that's a really good idea. We could think about doing that. So this is not meant to be, yes, the holy grail, but just to give you a bit of an indication in terms of how we communicate. So firstly, yes, and this links into our Virginia Mason and our UHCWI methodology. We have weekly huddles across all of our finance team, and they are a cascade huddle. So On a monthly, generally, yes, our corporate finance team, so that's myself, Sue, and our 5 associates meet in terms of what our week's work is. Those huddles then, and any messages from those huddles are then cascaded down, yes, across the relevant teams, yes, to every member of our finance team through a cascade huddle. Myself and Sue periodically join huddles, yes, across our organisation, partly to understand whether or not those messages are still being delivered, but more importantly, yes, as part of our overall visibility. We have a monthly team brief, so this is open to all finance staff. On average, we have 70 people out of the 110 finance staff that attend each and every team brief. Through the accreditation process, the slide that I showed you before was one of the key bits. We used to identify the accreditation bits or the themes that we were working on, and a bit of an update in terms of what was happening in each of those areas. We provided accreditation updates through our cascade process in terms of huddles as well, so just in terms of making sure that those were feeding to all members of staff. We undertook listening events, so we did a listening event around our staff survey for the first time in July and August. That's the first time that we've done that in that way. Really valuable experience, I think, quite an eye-opener, certainly in terms of some of the themes, but actually I never forget one of our junior staff coming up to me and saying, you know, you do a finance update each and every month, but you use quite a lot of abbreviations that actually at that level I'm at in the organisation I don't understand. So interesting, yes, in terms of feedback and learning, in terms of what we do differently going forward. We do a lot of engagement with staff, so we do something that's called rounding, which is in essence where we go into departments and just understand what's going on a day-to-day basis. We have done budget holder surveys in terms of understanding what they think about the service that we provide. On the back of that, we've got a budget holder development programme. I will talk to you in one of the following slides about our value streams, but associated with that budget holder survey, we've now got a value stream about trying to improve the information we provide to budget holders. I personally meet with every new starter to finance, just a bit of a hello, meet and greet. We also do workshops in terms of with our teams, or in terms of those things that we're trying to move on or improve. So you can't do all of this communication just as part of the process. It's something that you need to embed. I'm not saying what we do is perfect, but we do quite a lot around communication and getting into and reaching different parts of our organisation. So next slide, I think Pam is going to talk a little bit about some of the specifics that we've done.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Sue. Yes, thank you for joining, everybody. And I thought it would be really nice to build on those 4 key areas of focus that Sue explained that are integral to having a successful accreditation application, and obviously embedding that within your own finance department. So I'll go through the slides very briefly, just picking out some of the sound bites where some examples of success that we've been able to demonstrate. So firstly, talent management has been a key focus. Those of you that are involved with Future Focus Finance and One NHS Finance will know that, you know, we have a renewed talent management strategy that is key to developing finance staff and creating the finance professionals of the future, a strategy within each organisation that doesn't leave anybody behind, a fully inclusive strategy. And we've kind of been developing that within our own organisation through what we call our apprentice to CFO progression route. And we've had 15 apprentices that have been developing through the organisation over the last 4 years. So this is something that we've developed for a number of years now, and we are seeing the fruits of the development of our apprentices. And we do have a showcase session coming up next month, which will look at that in a little bit more detail. And I think Sue has already talked about the competency framework and succession planning, ensuring that we are embedding this as part of our strategy and how we develop our finance staff and professionals for the future, and making sure everybody has an opportunity to develop. And we do a lot of work with HFMA, our graduate training scheme, university students. But also in terms of demonstrating that development, we used a staff storyboard where we asked each of our colleagues in finance to write a short biography about their development journey. And we felt that that worked really, really well in terms of sort of demonstrating how they felt developed in terms of their future career and their career aspirations. And recently, we also became a case study for the Midlands Finance Academy, where we showcased our talent management process. And again, we will be showcasing that in a couple of weeks on the 24th of January. So hopefully you'll be able to join us on that. In terms of health and well-being, one of the things that was really important to us is making sure that we have a happy and healthy finance department. It's really important for us to make sure that we've responded to any concerns that our finance staff have raised, either through the staff survey or just through, you know, general huddles, but also making sure that we have the fun side of finance and coming into work, and everybody feels comfortable coming into work despite any personal circumstances that they might be having, but also celebrating their success and celebrating their achievements. And Sue mentioned some of the examples around the Christmas quiz and the staff awards, our Oscars, our world-class colleagues, but also all the different activities that we have where we engage with the rest of the organisation. And we have a number of team building activities, not just within finance, but we do have a bit of competition with our operational colleagues as well. And so there's just some examples of our sports days and laser quest and dragon boat racing, just a few examples of how we have ways to uplift the staff in lots of different ways. So if we can't do that outside of work, we do a lot of events during the course of the day as well, to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to meet each other, and, you know, just generally building relationships with each other, and making sure that we've got a happy and healthy finance team. Moving on to the area around equality, diversity and inclusion. Again, this is a really, really important aspect, not just for accreditation, but also for making sure that you've got a really solid foundation for supporting your staff. So we made sure that our recruitment and retention and promotion strategies were closely aligned to the One NHS Finance charter and checklist, and we made sure through making sure that was signed off by our senior finance leaders, that, you know, we were following all the correct sort of processes to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind, and that nobody is disadvantaged either from progression or for development. And we do celebrate the fact that we are a very diverse finance department. In fact, when we analysed the results of our staff survey, we realised that actually we are more diverse in our finance department than the local population, and we felt that was a point of celebration, really, that, you know, we've got such a diverse finance team, and we're regularly celebrating cultural events and festivals, and bringing everybody together on a regular basis. And Sue's already mentioned the fact that we had a 100% response rate in our staff survey this year, and we will be looking in terms of the results, what that shows and how we can further develop and how we can further improve. And one really wonderful thing that's happened over the course of the last year is that our people support team at UHCW really take forward the engagement, wellbeing and diversity for the organisation, and we've had really great engagement with our people support team. You know, they've helped to facilitate some of our away days, our listening events and our improvement events, and we've managed to build such a fantastic relationship with them, to the point where, you know, they want to actually showcase to the rest of the organisation, you know, the wonderful relationship and the work that the finance department are doing in terms of cultural diversity and responding to the national staff survey. So that's a relationship that's flourishing very, very well, and we can demonstrate to the rest of the organisation how seriously we take health and wellbeing, equality, diversity, and the results of our staff survey. And then moving on to internal governance and controls, I think Sue touched upon this, really is making sure that we have got a very strong and stable structure in place where we've got good governance. And I think that was very much highlighted by the fact that we had exceptional recognition from our trust board and our external auditors at the time of preparing our annual accounts, whilst simultaneously implementing one of the largest EPR systems that Sue led within the organisation. And also on top of that, we were going through our level 3 accreditation. So we were doing 3 really massive strategic pieces of work, and the fact that we got recognition from our trust chair and our external auditors was a real celebration that, you know, we're moving in the right direction, and it really recognised the efforts that how the whole of the finance department pulled together through all of these challenging times. And I think going back to the health and wellbeing aspect as well, I think during the pandemic and post-pandemic, you know, we saw a lot of changes in the way that we work, both working from home, working remotely, and how we engage with the rest of the organisation. You know, there's been a massive change in the way that we work in finance, and being able to maintain our governance levels and our relationships with the rest of the organisation through that has been really, really remarkable. And I think the fact that we've got such a good relationship and visibility across the organisation, both internally as well as the system, externally, regionally and nationally, really demonstrates the fact that having this good internal governance and relationships with the organisation and visibility is really, really important in terms of delivering the finance agenda, and especially in the environment that we're working in at the moment. And then just very quickly talking about having good engagement, and this is around engagement and visibility both internally and externally. So Anthony talked very much about the engagement and stakeholder engagement that we have with our budget holders and some of the value streams, responding to the budget holder survey and how we're taking that forward. But also it's really important to have good engagement and good visibility, both internally and externally. And there's just some examples of how we've managed to do that. I think Sue said at the beginning of the presentation how we've been on this journey right from the very beginning. When Future Focus Finance was born 10 years ago, you know, we thought this is something that's really important for us to be involved in. And we became ambassadors in terms of the value maker networks, the FACE networks, and bringing all of that within our organisation, and the way that we do things, how we collaborate with our finance department and our budget holders and the rest of the organisation. On top of that, you know, we've talked about how we've developed this talent management, how we're developing our apprentices, and we're also a host organisation for the Midlands Insights Placement Scheme. So again, this is about how we develop finance colleagues of the future, finance professionals, finance leaders of the future, and how we can encourage finance within the NHS to be a career option for people that are at school or not going to university. You know, there's various options for entering the NHS finance as a career. So we've talked a little bit about how we're developing that, and we'll be sharing a little bit more about that when we do our showcase session in February. And I've already touched upon how important health and wellbeing, equality, diversity, inclusion has been, you know, as a bedrock to making sure that our finance staff feel comfortable, they feel happy in the environment that they're working in, and that they have an ability to be able to talk about any concerns and make any suggestions for improvement. And all the improvements that we're working on, whether it be through Virginia Mason or Better Never Stops methodology, is all driven by the staff themselves. It's very much bottom up and not a top-down approach where, you know, the senior managers are implementing the changes. All of the improvements are very much driven by the staff themselves, and that has been really, really, really valuable. And that brings me to talk about the Virginia Mason Institute, where I will seamlessly hand over to Anthony.
Or me.
or Sue and Anthony.
It's my star thing around Virginia Mason. So I've given you a little bit of the start point around Virginia Mason, but the main thing I'll just start with is saying that, you know, we started the Virginia Mason partnership in 2015, shortly after the journey, if you like, with Future Focus Finance started, and it really underpins our journey to excellence. So there are a number of tools that are part of the methodology. There's also a recognised management methodology around huddles, around production boards and focus boards, which we've very much adopted within finance, but also in terms of where we are, we really embrace it as part of the finance department, and also the way in which we support our organisation. And I think that's really important when you look at our accreditation journey, because the two very much go hand in hand in terms of the approach that we've taken using UHCW, and also, of course, operating a best-in-class finance function. And I'll actually hand over to Anthony at this point just to talk a little around how that partnership, if you like, which goes across the whole of the organisation, and how we've really embraced it within finance, and some of the practical things actually that we've done within the department itself.
Thank you, Sue. So I was just going to pick up, yes, in terms of value streams. So value streams is one of the ways that we make change in the organisation. Value streams are generally, yes, or value stream events are generally run by those people who take part in that activity. So we have done, as part of our financial reporting, 2 value streams at the moment. one on budget environments and one on budget holder meetings. So in essence, both of those processes look at each of the steps that happen each and every month, and you've got a bit of an example. It's post-it heavy, with people placing suggestions onto a board around different parts of the process, and where they believe there's waste or where there's improvement. That process then results in a trial state. That trial state is then tested, and the same process is run again. It is then tested again. And the idea being is that you create ownership of a process that you want to run and embed across your finance function in this case. And what we are seeing across the organisation and what we're hoping to see across finance is that those value streams and that one way of working, yes, then becomes embedded in terms of making improvements in what we do across finance. Okay, so that's probably all I was going to pick up on that, conscious of time. Next slide, please, Pam. So just in terms of our approach in terms of success, so I think the slide probably says the majority of it. One of the key messages is that point that I picked up earlier, and that is really being able to demonstrate that growth since level 2. Yeah, the improvements that the level 2 process asks you to be able to do, the level 3 process really looks around embedding. Regular communication is the way I've talked about in terms of some of the earlier slides, and being really proud of what we do. And I think you'll probably have heard from Sue that she is exceptionally proud in terms of some of the changes and some of the improvements that we've made. It's really interesting being in the organisation at the moment, because when you talk about something you think is working well, somebody will say, but we can do it better. And that is a really great culture to have, but it comes with some challenges as well. So how do you focus in terms of what are those right areas? But those are some of the things that we have done in terms of our success. And I think we've talked about our Oscar nominations and our world-class colleagues, and the finance awards, which we ran for the first time this year. So next slide. What's next? So I think for us, better never stops. So we want to continue to improve. We want to continue to engage and learn from others. We have just developed a 5-year strategy that supports the development elements that we want to do over the next 5 years. We want to ensure that our accreditation of items are really embedded into our business as usual, development groups, sharing of best practice with our finance community, and continuing to learn from others. And I think that's what we are looking to do as we move forward. So on that,
just to say, the first step is really making the decision that this is something that you really believe in, and it needs to have support from the top all the way through in terms of the department. And we are lucky enough to have Pam, who has been supporting us through that journey, has done an excellent job in leading the whole of the department through and making sure we keep on track. But you need to make that decision that actually this is something that is important.
Okay. I'm conscious that we've ran to end, but quite happy to take questions if people have got questions. Do you want to just put the next slide up, Pam? So I think we've got a link there in terms of, so if you've got a specific question that you think about afterwards, by all means, if you want to contact Pam or at UHCW, that bottom link there, we are more than happy to answer any of the questions that you've got. If you would like to come and see what we're doing, likewise. Yeah. Any questions?
I couldn't see any questions in the chat, so I think we're good with questions unless anybody's puts their hand
Well,
up. And
so the offer's there, isn't it, in terms
Yeah.
of picking up anything after, and just supposed to thank everybody for giving us this opportunity to showcase what we have done, and hopefully it has given a few tips or inspiration or whatever it may be to follow on that journey.
Okay. Thank you all.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello.